welcome back to the Creative Chicken. Today we're going to be creating an art journal page in my square Dylusions art journal, and we're going to start off by doing a little bit of stamping. So I've just taken an old script stamp that I have. As you can see, I'm not very precious about some of my stamps. They do get used a lot in mixed media. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to apply some VersaFine and do some random stamping on my page. Because it's art journaling, the page isn't all about the stamp, so it's just a case of stamping wherever I want. I always like to stamp off the page. Obviously you can see we haven't got this on an acrylic block. Again, that's because it's art journaling. I'm not particularly worried about getting the full stamp on the page. I got a little bit in there. Now it's up to you. You could cover the complete page with your stamp if you want to. I've decided to just go in randomly. To be honest, I'm not even sure I have this stamp the right way up, but it doesn't matter. It's just to add detail and interest to the background of my page. So I'll have a little bit there, I'll put it up here, and we'll fill that little gap there. Okie doke. So what I'm going to do now is dry that off with my heat tool just to fix it, make sure it doesn't move anywhere. That's my ink all dried, and in the meantime I've been joined by a little helper, Pepsi. Say hello. She loves to be in on the action. So what I wanted to do next on my background was actually to... Originally what I intended to do next on my background was to use a jelly plate, but I'm currently in 14 days isolation, so I don't have my jelly plate with me. So I thought we'd improvise. If you don't have a jelly plate, it's something you can use to get a very similar technique to what we're going to do now. So I've just taken an empty juice bottle and I've wrapped some cling film around it, so I have a nice wipe off surface with a little bit of texture. All I'm going to do is add a little bit of acrylic paint. These are just cheap Hobbycraft acrylics, but you could use any acrylics that you've got in the house. Pop a little bit onto my bottle. I'm going to take my paintbrush, dip it in my water and add some water and just smear around that acrylic paint, get it nice and wet. And there we go. And then what I'm going to do is start and roll it onto my page. A little bit more water. And it just gives you a really nice textured background onto your page. So there we go with my first colour. I'm going to dry that off and then I'm going to go back in and do exactly the same with the second. My second colour, I've decided I wanted to go a little bit darker but still staying in the purples palette. So I'm using IndigoBlu's Wimbury Pie. I'm going to do exactly the same as I did before. A little bit of paint in my bottle, some water, scooch it around. And then I'll just take that again across my page. Oh, that's nice. And a little bit of colour in the corner. Okie doke. So, time to dry that one off. I've dried off my second lot of acrylic paint there, and now I'm going to go in with my Holtz stencil and some Finnabair's Art Basics modelling paste to put some texture onto the page. If you haven't used this paste before, it is lovely for using in your art journal. Lots and lots of texture pastes out there on the market, obviously. I think a lot of the time it's just trying different ones, finding out which one you prefer. Some are quite gritty and coarse in texture. This one's really quite smooth. So getting a bit of that onto my palette knife, and then I'm just going to go in. And again, like the stamping, the page isn't about the stenciling, so I don't mind if I miss bits of the stencil. I don't mind if some areas are thicker than others. I'm just trying to get some texture onto this page. So I'm going to carry on, put some more stenciling around some other areas of my page, dry it off, and I'll come back to you shortly. Now that the modelling paste is dry, I'm going to go in with some of my Dina Weekly Media Scribble sticks. If you don't have these, you could use watercolour paints, you could use your Tim Holtz Distress crayons, even your Tim Holtz Distress inks to get this effect. So what I'm going to do is wet my page a little bit with a bit of spritz of water. There we go, nice and wet. Pick up the scribble stick I want to use, a nice wet brush. And I'm just rubbing the brush on the end to pick up some pigment. I'm doing this over my page so that if I do get drops like that, that's absolutely fine. We can work with those. So there we go, taking some of my paint along the edge of my page. And then I'm going to pick up and tip my page. And the idea is to try and get that colour running through where we've put the modelling paste. If you come to an area which seems a bit dry, just go and spritz it with a bit more water and you'll get it going again. Okay, I think I'll have a little bit more up here. Okay, quite happy with that. I'm going to dry that off and then I'm going to come back and go in with another colour doing exactly the same. So my first colour's dry. I'm going to spritz the page again. Now obviously these are water-based pigments, so as I re-spritz I may get some more running of the first colour, that's fine. And this time I've decided I'm going to go in with a turquoise. So just rubbing my very wet brush on, picking up some of the pigment. Pop it on the page where I want it to go. Just going to give that a little bit more of a spritz. Pick my book up and get it running again. This is the fun part, you have absolutely no control. And it's just great fun to watch where that water is going to take the pigment. A little bit more of a spritz. And time to dry that one off again. So I've dried off that colour now, and what I'm going to do is pick some more of the pigment up on my very wet brush. And I'm just going to splatter a bit of the peacock onto my page. Can't beat a bit of splattering. I'm now going to repeat and do exactly the same with the first colour I used, which was blackberry. And by splattering, what I'm doing is I'm bringing together the whole page by making sure that there's a little bit of each colour going right across. And there we go, time to dry it again. Looking at my background now, I'm quite happy with it, but I do feel it needs a little bit of sparkle. Now I don't do glitter, so what I'm going to do is go in with a little bit of gold acrylic paint, just popping a little bit on my mat. I've got my good old Tim Holtz Distress splatter brush. You could just use an ordinary brush if you want. Dip it in my water, and then I'm just blending it into my acrylic paint on the mat, just to make it a little bit more of a runny consistency. And I'm just splattering some gold across the page. And once I'm happy, time to dry it off again. So for the focal point of my page, I've decided to go with one of my Tim Holtz paper dolls from the Tim Holtz Ideology range. And I'm just going to stick that onto my page using some PVA glue. Now, obviously, you could do a stamped image to pop on your page if you don't have any of these dollies. They are in our shop. Or you could even cut an image from a magazine. Remember, I'm just here to give you ideas and techniques. You take them whichever direction you want. So that's my focal point. I'm going to pop those down there. I'm always a little heavy-handed with the PVA, so we'll knock a bit of that off. Give my good press down. I'm sticking with Tim Holtz for my sentiments. Just missed a bit of PVA there, give that a wipe. And thinking of what we're all going through at the moment, I've decided that I'm going to say it on my page Stay strong. Be brave. And look on the bright side, because there was always a bright side to everything. For instance, I get to be at home playing all day at the moment rather than being at work. Once I've got everything stuck down, I'm just going in with my Stabilo Aquarelle All Pencil. These are fabulous. They work on paper, glass, plastic and metal, and they're a bit like the old Chinagraph pencils we used to use. However, they've got a really intense pigment, as you will see in a moment. So I'm just going around the outline of my focal point with the pencil. And the idea is this will just make the focal point stand out more from the page. You could use a normal watercolour pencil for this, but I have tried quite a few different ones, and I just find that the amount of pigment you get released when you add water to these Stabilo pencils is second to none. So I would highly recommend those. While I'm going, I'm just going to quickly pop a bit of the pencil around my sentiment. If you find your sentiment's not sticking very well, you could always go in with a bit of PV or collage glue over those. So now I'm just taking a finer paintbrush, wetting it and taking it around that pencil, and can you see how that pigment just comes out? It's absolutely fabulous, and it really makes your focal point stand out from your page. So I'll continue all the way around, and I'll come back to you when I'm finished. So you can see now how the focal point and the sentiment just pop out from my page. Now I feel that I need something down this side because of the way I was working, because of the fact that my book's pretty full. I didn't get quite into the edge when I was putting my original paints on. So I've just found some washi tape, which I think matches in with the colours I've got and actually has quite a nice sentiment on it too. And I'm just going to take that down the edge of my page there to finish that bit off. I'm going with some scissors in a moment and trim that. And I think that's the page almost complete. All I'm going to do is now take my Stabilo pencil all the way around the outside, just a little bit, and then I'm going to go around with my wet brush again and try and get a nice border to finish my page off. That's our page complete. Hope you've enjoyed crafting along with the Creative Chicken. Please give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to our channel, and hope to see you again soon. Bye.